foils to your stencil designs for beautiful striking backgrounds. Fab Foils works so well for this technique, pairing with an array of ink colours and stencil designs. I'm Verity from the creative team and welcome to the channel. The stencil I'm using for all three cards today is the hand-painted chevron from Thirsty Brush & Co, a fairly new stamp die and stencil company here in the UK. I'm combining this with three Fab Foil colours and using the bonding powder from Wow to adhere the foils to the cards. For the first card, I'm ink blending through the stencil like you normally would do, using Rose Petal and Peppermint Scrub Catherine Pooler inks for an ombre look. Make sure the ink is dry before you move on to the next part of the card. To give the background some variation and interest, I'm going to offset the stencil from the ink blended background and adhere this down, moving it slightly to the side and up. Using the clear ultra slow drying embossing pad from Wow, I'm smushing the ink pad through the stencil, and once all the background is covered with ink, I remove the stencil. Next, cover the panel with bonding powder from Wow. Now you would use the bonding powder just like you would an embossing powder, sprinkling it over wet ink. But make sure you wipe away any stray powder and then heat set this with your dual speed heat gun from Wow. There are several tips I picked up whilst making these cards and using the bonding powder for foiling. So for the first card, I heat set the background all in one go, and this was a big background. So by the time it was completely heat set and I put the rose gold Fab Foil down, the melted powder had cooled quite a bit and not as much foil was adhering to the powder. Don't worry though, you can reheat the melted powder and then reapply the foil. Now it's a good idea to burnish the foil down over the powder, and you may wish to use a tool to do this to protect your fingers. I just used a scoring tool, but I found when I was touching the foil over the powder it wasn't too hot. Now before you take the foil off, allow the powder to cool slightly, and this will give you a better foil. In the end, with the large background, I heated and added the foil in smaller areas, moving it around until I completely covered the background. If you get any stray foil in areas you don't want it, you can easily remove the foil just using a mono sand eraser to rub off the foil. For the second card, I rotated the stencil and ink blended Juniper Mist and All That Jazz Catherine Pooler inks, masking off a little section 2/3 of the way down the stencil. This time I added the clear ink through the stencil using a sponge dauber, and this allowed me to add the ink to smaller areas with more control. I used the teal Fab Foil for this card, heating the bonding powder and applying the foil in smaller sections, giving a much more smoother and better overall foil. You will find that you'll get a more distressed look when you're foiling using the bonding powder compared to other methods of foiling. For the last card, I went for a more grungier look with the stencil and positioned it at a diagonal across the card. The ink colour selection I used was Twilight, Stone Blue and Seafoam Catherine Pooler inks, and I didn't completely fill the panel with my ink blending. I also wanted to emphasise the distress look more, and therefore added clear ink with my small sponge dauber randomly across the panel. After heat setting the bonding powder, I also added more texture and distressing by applying the silver Fab Foil in a much more haphazard way. This silver worked really well with the colours used in the ink blending and really popped against the grunge feel to the card. To finish the cards off, I added heat embossed black sentiment strips using my favourite white embossing powder. It's the opaque bright white embossing powder from Wow in the super fine powder form, giving lovely crisp sentiments. For the teal Fab Foil card, I used the Little Inca Thanks die and added a black offset shadow to make it pop out from the background of the card. The card was finished off with Caribbean Ocean Nouveau drops, and the paper hugs enclosed sentiment comes from the Trinity stamp set Mr. Snailman. For the more grungier background, I added a happy die cut sentiment using the Alt New Fine Alphabet die set and a selection of Nouveau drops in Blue Babe, Faded Denim and Liquid Mercury. The Heat Embossed birthday sentiment came from the Alt New Birthday Builder stamp set. For the last card, I added a stitched vellum rectangle over the top of the background, along with a MFT Friend Dynamic sentiment. The vellum adds a different texture where it overlays the foiling, and I really love the look it gives. The Stay Awesome My sentiment comes from the Leaf Canopy set from Alt New. I hope today's video has shown you 3 ways to step up your stenciling with Fab Foils, whether you go for the more feminine look or if you prefer the grungier style. There are some fantastic colours in the Fab Foil range, so make sure you check them out. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified when the next video is up. Also, check out this other video for more crafty inspiration. If you'd like to check out my personal channel, Pretty Little Button, I've also included a link here. Until next time, happy crafting!